Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another effective episode here at Code Your English. I'm really happy you're here with me today. Take a moment, relax your shoulders, and let your mind settle. This podcast is your space to learn English in a calm, meaningful way. Not just by listening to words, but by exploring ideas that help you grow as a person. My goal is always the same: to give you something useful for your English and something valuable for your life. Today, we're talking about a topic that every single one of us struggles with, no matter where we come from, how old we are, or what level of English we speak. It's something adults deal with, students deal with, and even successful people still find challenging. The topic is making better decisions. And yes, I said skill, not talent, not luck, but a real skill that you can learn, practice, and improve. You know, many people think decision-making is about being naturally confident or magically knowing the right choice. But that's not true. Good decision-making is not a special gift that only some lucky people have. It's a combination of awareness, mindset, experience, and small habits. It's something you can get better at step by step, just like learning English. And the beautiful thing is this: once you start improving this skill, you start improving every part of your life. Your relationships, your work, your goals, your peace of mind. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you wanted to make a change but felt stuck between two choices? How many times have you worried about making the wrong move? Maybe you've felt afraid, or confused, or overwhelmed. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. We've all been there, even the people who seem confident from the outside. So in this episode, I want to walk with you gently through this topic. I want to help you understand decision-making in a way that feels human, practical, and hopeful. As you listen, I want to invite you to stay open-minded. Try not to judge yourself or think about your past mistakes. Instead, listen with curiosity. Let the ideas sit in your mind. Let them connect with your experiences. You don't have to agree with everything. Just allow yourself to reflect. Sometimes one question, one example, or one idea can change the way you see your whole life. So let's begin this journey together. Take a deep breath, stay present, and let's explore the skill of making better decisions. One simple step at a time. What decision-making really means, beyond right or wrong. When we talk about decision-making, many people immediately think about choosing between right and wrong. But real life is not that simple. Most of the time, we don't have a perfect answer in front of us. We don't have a crystal ball that shows the future. What we really have are options. Options with different risks, different benefits, and different consequences. And that's why it's important to understand the difference between a perfect decision and a healthy decision. A perfect decision means everything goes exactly the way you imagine. A healthy decision means you choose with clarity, honesty, and courage, even when the future is uncertain. And in most situations, a healthy decision is more helpful, and also more realistic. But why do so many of us struggle to make even small decisions? One of the biggest reasons is perfectionism. We want the outcome to be perfect. We want zero mistakes. We want absolute safety. And because we want the result to be perfect, we delay, we overthink, and sometimes we don't decide at all. Perfectionism makes our mind tense. It creates pressure. It tells us, if you don't choose perfectly, you will fail. And that message freezes us. Instead of moving forward, we stay in the same place, worrying and imagining every possible negative scenario. Have you ever been afraid to choose something because you didn't want to disappoint anyone, including yourself? And then there is self-doubt, that quiet but powerful voice inside us that asks, what if I'm not ready? What if I choose the wrong path? What if I am not good enough to handle the result? Self-doubt is something almost everyone experiences. Even strong, confident people feel it sometimes. It makes us question our abilities and our worth. And when self-doubt mixes with perfectionism, it becomes a heavy weight that keeps us stuck. Have you ever wanted to take a step forward in your life, but stopped because you weren't sure you could trust your own judgment? This is why we need a new way of thinking about decisions. Instead of seeing them as final, life-defining choices, we can see them as steps. Steps that create momentum, not destiny. Momentum means movement, progress, energy. When you make a decision, you start moving. Maybe your decision leads to success. Maybe it leads to a lesson. But either way, you grow. You learn. You understand yourself better. Your life is not shaped by one perfect choice. It's shaped by hundreds of small, healthy decisions made over time. Isn't it interesting how one small decision, like reading more, practicing English for 10 minutes, or talking to one new person, can slowly change your direction? Think for a moment about your own life. How many decisions have you avoided because you were waiting for the perfect moment? How many times did you hope for the perfect answer instead of choosing a healthy, honest one? And here's another question. What if the goal was never perfection at all? What if the real goal is movement, growth, and self-respect? When you understand that decisions create momentum, you stop fearing them. You start seeing them as opportunities. Opportunities to understand yourself, to learn something new, or to open a new door. Every decision becomes a small message to your future self. It says, I am trying, I am learning, I am moving forward. So, as we continue this episode, I want you to carry this idea with you. You don't need perfect decisions to build a good life. You just need healthy decisions. Decisions made with awareness, honesty, and courage. Let this idea sit in your mind as we explore the next part of this journey together. The psychology behind good decisions. When we think about good decision-making, we often imagine people who are confident, clever, or naturally brave. But the truth is, the psychology behind good decisions is much more practical and much more human. It starts with your mindset, the way you see yourself, your abilities, and your future. If your mindset is full of fear, you will avoid choices. If your mindset is full of doubt, you will hesitate. But if your mindset is open, curious, and ready to learn, decision-making becomes less frightening. You stop asking, what if I fail? And you start asking, what can I learn from this? A simple shift in mindset can change the way you handle every choice in your life. Another important part of decision-making is clarity. When your mind is clear, you can see your options more honestly. But when your mind is full of noise, pressure, confusion, outside opinions, or old worries, it becomes difficult to think. Many of us make poor decisions not because we are weak or careless, but because our mind is too crowded. Clarity doesn't mean knowing everything. It simply means understanding what truly matters to you. It means connecting your choices with your values. If you know what you care about, even difficult decisions become easier to manage. But clarity and mindset alone are not enough. We also need to understand emotional regulation, the ability to manage our emotions instead of letting them control us. Fear, stress, frustration, and even excitement can push us toward choices that are not healthy or well thought out. Fear can make us stay in our comfort zone. Stress can make us choose the fastest option instead of the best one. Frustration can push us into decisions we later regret. And sometimes excitement makes us say yes too quickly. Have you ever made a fast decision just because you were emotional in the moment, and later thought, maybe I should have slowed down? This is why slowing down is such a powerful skill. In a world where everything moves fast, slowing down feels strange, almost uncomfortable. But it gives us space to breathe, think, and reflect. Slowing down doesn't mean waiting forever. It simply means creating a little distance between your feelings and your actions. When you take even a few seconds to pause, your mind becomes a little clearer. You see your emotions more honestly. You stop reacting and start choosing. Have you noticed that your best decisions often come when you are calm, not when you are rushing? Because of this, many psychologists and coaches recommend simple mental tools to support better decision-making. One easy model that works for almost everyone is the pause, think, choose method. First, you pause. You stop your automatic reaction. You take a breath. You slow your body and mind. Then you think, not for hours or days, but for a moment of clarity. You ask yourself simple questions. What do I want? What am I afraid of? What is the healthiest choice for me right now? And finally, you choose, with awareness, not fear, with intention, not pressure. This small three-step model can help you stay in control, even in difficult or emotional situations. Imagine how different life would feel if you used this model every time you felt stressed or confused. Imagine being able to step back from your emotions instead of being pushed around by them. Imagine choosing from a place of clarity instead of panic. These small psychological shifts can completely transform your decision-making process. So as we move forward, keep this in mind. Good decisions don't come from perfection. They come from clarity, a healthy mindset, and emotional balance. And often, the most powerful thing you can do in any moment is simply to pause. The pause gives you power, and the power helps you choose wisely. Let's continue exploring this journey with that calm strength in mind. A personal story. A time I made a difficult decision. Let me share a personal story with you, because sometimes a real moment from life teaches us more than any theory. A few years ago, I faced one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make. I was living in a comfortable place, surrounded by familiar people, a routine I knew well, and a job that was safe. But inside, I felt something was missing. I wanted to grow, to challenge myself, to experience something new. Then one day, I received an opportunity to move to a different country. It sounded exciting, but it also felt terrifying. And just like anyone else, I started thinking, what if I choose wrong? What if I regret it? What if I'm not strong enough to start all over again? For weeks, I went back and forth in my mind. My heart said, this will help you grow. But my fears said, don't risk it. I remember sitting in my room late at night, looking at the walls that had become so familiar, and thinking about leaving everything behind. I imagined the new country, the new language environment, and the possibility of feeling lost. I worried about being alone. I worried about failing. I worried about disappointing the people who believed in me. And even though the opportunity was wonderful, my mind was full of tension and confusion. One evening, I went for a long walk to clear my head. The streets were quiet, and the air felt heavy. I kept thinking about all the things that could go wrong, but suddenly, a different thought entered my mind. What if things go right? What if this decision opens a new door for you? What if this is the step you need to take to become the person you want to be? That simple question changed everything. Instead of only imagining failure, I started imagining growth. Instead of asking, "What if I fall?" I asked, "What if I fly?" And in that moment, something inside me softened. The fear didn't disappear, but it stopped controlling me. So I made the decision. I packed my bags, said goodbye to my old life, and moved. The first few weeks were not easy. I felt lonely sometimes. I felt confused. I made mistakes. But every day, I also discovered something new about myself. My strength, my resilience, my ability to adapt. I met new people, learned new things, and slowly built a new life. And looking back now, I can say with full honesty that it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The most important lesson I learned was this: a difficult decision doesn't become easier by waiting. It becomes easier when you trust yourself. I realized that the fear of making a wrong decision is often stronger than the reality of the decision itself. I also understood that no choice is perfect. Every path has challenges. But what matters is choosing a path that helps you grow, not a path that keeps you comfortable. This experience shaped the way I make decisions today. Whenever I feel confused or scared, I remind myself of that moment when I chose courage over fear. I remind myself that growth always comes with some discomfort. And I remind myself that regret usually comes from not trying, not from trying and learning. Maybe you have a similar situation in your life right now. Maybe you're standing between two choices, feeling pressure from your fear and pull from your dreams. If that's true, ask yourself the same question that helped me. What if this decision is exactly what you need to grow? Sometimes the answer can gently guide you toward the next chapter of your life. Let's continue our journey with that thought in mind. That courage doesn't mean having no fear. It means moving forward even when fear is whispering in your ear. Everyday examples of decision-making. Realistic and adult-friendly. When we talk about decision-making, we often imagine big and dramatic choices: changing careers, ending a relationship, or moving to a new country. But the truth is, most of the decisions that shape our lives happen quietly, in the middle of ordinary days. They are the small choices we make when no one is watching. They are the habits we repeat, the options we avoid, and the moments when we choose comfort over growth or growth over comfort. These everyday decisions slowly build the direction of our future, often without us even noticing. Think about your work life. Every day you decide how you show up. You decide whether you give your best or just do the minimum. You decide whether to learn something new or stay stuck in the same routine. Even something as simple as speaking up in a meeting or staying silent is a decision that creates long-term effects. If you speak up regularly, people start to notice your confidence. They trust your ideas. Opportunities come. But if you always stay quiet, people might assume you have nothing to add, even when you do. Isn't it interesting how such a small daily choice can slowly shape your career? In personal life, the same thing happens. Every conversation with a partner, friend, or family member includes decisions. Decisions about patience, honesty, respect, or silence. Sometimes the healthier decision is to express your feelings. Sometimes the healthier decision is to walk away from an unhealthy situation. And sometimes it's choosing to listen instead of reacting. These decisions might feel small in the moment, but over time, they build trust or break it. They create closeness or distance. They strengthen relationships or weaken them. Money decisions are also a huge part of adult life. You decide whether to spend quickly because something looks attractive, or to save because you want long-term security. You decide whether to buy things for emotional comfort or wait until you truly need them. At first, these decisions seem small. One purchase, one moment, one feeling. But over months and years, they create financial stability or financial stress. A tiny decision repeated consistently becomes a powerful pattern. And then, there are decisions about habits. The invisible choices you make every single day. You decide whether to exercise or skip it. You decide whether to scroll on your phone for an hour or read something meaningful. You decide whether to practice English for 10 minutes or tell yourself you'll do it tomorrow. These decisions shape your skills, your confidence, and your lifestyle. One study session doesn't change your English, but 100 of them do. One healthy meal doesn't change your body, but a year of healthy meals does. That's the power of consistency. This is why it's so important to understand the difference between consistency and impulse. Impulse is when you act based on emotion in the moment, when you let stress, boredom, or frustration control your actions. Consistency is when you choose based on your values and long-term goals. Impulse gives you quick pleasure, but short results. Consistency gives you slow progress, but strong results. Which one do you want guiding your life? Quick emotion or long-term purpose? Take a moment now and reflect on your own daily decisions. You don't need to judge yourself. Just observe with honesty. Which small choices are helping you grow? Which small choices are holding you back? Sometimes the most powerful changes start with the smallest steps. You don't need to transform everything at once. You just need to improve one decision at a time. So here is a question for you. Which small daily choices quietly shape your life right now? And another one. If you improved just one of those choices, even a little bit, how different would your future look in 6 months or 1 year? As we continue this episode, keep these questions in your mind. They will help you understand the true power of everyday decisions. The kind that don't feel dramatic, but slowly build the life you're living today. Practical tools for making better decisions. Now that we've talked about the psychology of decision-making and how our daily choices shape our lives, let's move into something very practical. I want to share a few simple tools that can help you make better decisions in real situations. These tools are easy to remember, and more importantly, they are easy to use even when you feel stressed or confused. You don't need any special training. You just need a little awareness and a willingness to pause before reacting. Let's explore these tools one by one and see how they work in everyday life. The first tool is something I call the 24-hour rule. This rule is especially helpful when you feel emotional, angry, excited, or pressured to decide quickly. The idea is simple. If the decision is not urgent and your emotions are strong, wait 24 hours before giving an answer. In those 24 hours, your feelings usually calm down, and you can think more clearly. For example, imagine you receive a message that makes you angry. Your first reaction might be to reply immediately with strong words, but if you follow the 24-hour rule, you give yourself time to cool down. After a day, you may write a calmer, more thoughtful message, or sometimes you decide not to reply at all. The same rule works with big purchases, emotional conversations, and even job decisions. Waiting one day doesn't solve everything, but it gives your mind the space it needs to think instead of react. The second tool is the 3-option method. Many people make bad decisions because they only see 2 choices: yes or no, stay or leave, accept or refuse. But when you limit yourself to only 2 options, the situation feels more dramatic and stressful. The 3-option method encourages you to always create a third possibility. For example, If you're considering changing your job, the two basic options might be stay or quit. But the third option could be stay for 6 more months while learning new skills and then look for better opportunities. Another example, if you're arguing with someone, your first reaction might be either to fight back or to walk away. But a third option could be take a break, return later with calm energy, and then talk. The moment you add a third option, your mind becomes more creative, and the pressure decreases. It reminds you that life is rarely just black or white. There is always another way if you look for it. The third tool is something I personally love: the Future You test. This tool helps you make decisions that support the person you want to become. The idea is to imagine yourself in the future, maybe 6 months from now, 1 year, or even 5 years from now, and ask, what would the future version of me want me to do today? This simple question helps you step out of your feelings in the moment and think long-term. For example, imagine you're deciding whether to study English for 20 minutes or skip it. In the moment, skipping feels easier. But if you ask, what would my future self want? The answer becomes clear. The future you, the more confident, successful, fluent version of you, would definitely want you to study. This tool also helps with money decisions, relationship decisions, and personal habits. It connects your present actions to your future goals. When you combine these three tools, your decision-making becomes much stronger. The 24-hour rule helps you slow down your emotions. The three-option method expands your thinking and gives you more possibilities. And the Future You test brings a sense of wisdom and long-term vision into your daily choices. Together, they guide you toward decisions that are calmer, clearer, and more aligned with the life you want to build. You don't need to master all these tools at once. Just try using one of them this week. Notice how it changes your thinking. Notice how it reduces confusion and stress. You might be surprised by how powerful these small tools can be when you apply them consistently. As we continue, keep these tools in your pocket, like quiet little helpers that support you whenever life asks you to choose. How to deal with mistakes and bad decisions. No matter how carefully we think, no matter how many tools we use, and no matter how wise we try to be, we will still make mistakes. This is simply part of being human. Everyone, absolutely everyone, makes bad decisions sometimes. Even successful people, even people who look confident, even people who seem to have it all together. So the first step in dealing with bad decisions is to normalize them. Instead of thinking, I failed, try thinking, this is something every human goes through. That small shift removes shame and makes space for understanding. When we treat mistakes like a normal part of life, it becomes easier to learn from them. Many people are very kind to others, but extremely harsh on themselves. They speak gently to friends, but punish themselves for every wrong step. But decision-making improves only when you practice self-compassion. Self-compassion doesn't mean you ignore your mistakes or pretend everything is perfect. It simply means you talk to yourself with the same kindness you would offer a good friend. If your friend made a bad decision, you wouldn't shout at them or call them stupid. You would comfort them, help them see the lesson, and encourage them to keep going. Why not offer the same care to yourself? When you look at a mistake with honesty and compassion, something powerful happens. The mistake becomes a teacher. Maybe you trusted the wrong person. Maybe you spent money without thinking. Maybe you stayed in a situation that wasn't good for you. Or maybe you rushed a decision because you were stressed or afraid. Whatever the situation, there is always a lesson hiding inside the experience. The real growth begins when you ask yourself questions like, "What can I learn from this?" Or, "How can I make a better choice next time?" These questions open the door to understanding instead of regret. One of the most helpful things you can do is separate your identity from your decisions. A bad decision does not mean you are a bad person. A wrong choice does not mean you are weak or broken. It simply means you were doing your best with the knowledge and emotions you had at that moment. And now, with new information and new self-awareness, you can choose differently. Think of it like updating your inner software. Every mistake gives you new data that helps you make better decisions in the future. Some people try to run away from their mistakes. They pretend nothing happened or blame others. But facing a mistake gently and directly gives you strength. For example, if you made a financial mistake, you can reflect on what emotion controlled you. Was it stress, excitement, fear, or pressure? Once you know the root cause, you can prevent the same situation from happening again. Or if you hurt someone with a quick or emotional decision, you can use that moment to learn about patience, communication, and emotional regulation. In this way, even painful decisions can become powerful lessons. Growth doesn't come from being perfect. Growth comes from looking at your journey with honesty and courage. Every time you learn from a mistake, you upgrade your decision-making muscle. You become wiser, more aware, and more intentional. And over time, you start trusting yourself more because you know that even if you fall, you can stand up again. So if you are carrying regret, disappointment, or guilt from a past decision, let this be a gentle reminder. You are allowed to be human. You are allowed to start again. You are allowed to learn as you go. And you are allowed to transform your mistakes into guidance for your future self. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" try asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" Remember, every strong, confident, wise person you admire has a long history of mistakes behind them. Mistakes that became lessons, and lessons that became strength. You are on the same path, step by step, choice by choice. Let your past decisions teach you, not define you. Building a decision-maker mindset. When we talk about becoming a better decision-maker, we are really talking about building a mindset that supports you every day. A strong decision-making mindset does not appear suddenly, and it does not depend on being perfect or having a life without problems. Instead, it grows slowly from daily habits and small moments of honesty with yourself. One of the most important parts of this mindset is clarity. When your mind is clear, you can see what truly matters, what is noise, and what is only fear pretending to be logic. Clarity does not mean having all the answers. It means knowing what you want, or at least knowing what direction feels right. It is about understanding your priorities and values, so your choices become easier to make and easier to trust. Another part of this mindset is self-honesty. Many people struggle with this because it is easier to lie to ourselves than to face uncomfortable truths. Sometimes we avoid decisions because we do not want to admit what we truly want. Sometimes we stay in situations that do not help us grow because change feels risky. But when you practice self-honesty, you allow yourself to see your real needs and your real goals. You stop making decisions based on what other people expect, and you start making decisions based on what supports your growth. Self-honesty is not about judging yourself. It is about becoming aware, open, and brave with your own truth. Consistency is another key element. Good decision-makers do not wait for big dramatic moments to show wisdom. They practice good choices in small situations, every day. They choose healthy habits, even when they are tired. They communicate clearly, even when it is difficult. They take small steps toward their goals, even when progress feels slow. This consistency creates stability, and stability creates confidence. When you build this steady rhythm in your life, you learn to trust yourself. You learn that you can handle challenges. You learn that you can start again anytime. And that brings us to another important habit: simply being willing to start. Many people wait for certainty before making a decision. They wait until they feel 100% sure, 100% ready, 100% confident. But this moment almost never comes. Real life is full of unknowns, and if you wait for perfect conditions, you may spend years standing still. A decision-maker mindset means having courage, not waiting for certainty. It means taking action even when you feel a little afraid. It means understanding that no choice will ever be completely risk-free. But staying frozen is often the riskiest choice of all. When you build these habits, clarity, self-honesty, consistency, and courage, you begin to see yourself differently. You realize that decisions are not problems to fear, but opportunities to grow. You feel stronger because you know you are not depending on luck or other people to move your life forward. You become the kind of person who trusts their own steps, even when the path is not completely visible yet. And slowly, the way you make decisions becomes not just a skill, but a way of living with intention. As we come to the end of this episode, I want to take a moment to gently bring everything together. Today, we talked about decision-making in a way that goes beyond simple ideas of right or wrong. We explored how healthy decisions come from clarity, patience, and emotional balance, not from perfection. We looked at the psychology behind choices and how fear or stress can sometimes push us in the wrong direction. We discussed a personal story to show that every choice has a lesson inside it. And we explored everyday examples that quietly shape our lives without us even noticing. We also talked about useful tools that can help you slow down, see clearly, and choose wisely. And finally, we looked at the habits that help you become a stronger, more confident decision-maker over time. All of these ideas connect to one simple truth: you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present, honest, and willing to take one small step. Before we close, I want you to sit with this idea for a moment. Good decisions do not happen only during big life changes. They happen during the simple days. The days when you choose discipline instead of comfort, patience instead of pressure, courage instead of avoidance. And these small choices build your future just as much as the big ones. You don't need to transform your whole life today. You only need to take one mindful action that brings you closer to the person you want to be. That is enough. That is progress. And that is how real change begins. So here is my final question for you. And I invite you to think about it slowly. Maybe even write it down later. Which decision have you been avoiding? And what is one tiny step you can take today to move forward? Not a big step, not a perfect plan, just one small action that tells your mind, I am ready to grow. I am ready to lead my life. Sometimes that small step might be sending a message, making a call, reading information, writing your thoughts, or finally admitting what you truly want. Whatever it is, trust that even a small step can open a big door. Thank you for spending this time with me on Code Your English. I appreciate your presence, your attention, and your willingness to learn, not only English, but also the skills that shape your life. Remember that reflection is a powerful way to strengthen your mind and your language skills at the same time. So listen again if you need to, Repeat the sentences, take notes, or simply think deeply about the ideas that touched you. Every moment you spend learning makes you stronger. Every episode you listen to makes your English better. And every small decision you make brings you closer to the life you want to create. Thank you. Truly. Stay thoughtful. Stay brave. And keep growing. One choice at a time.